Hello everyone. Today, welcome to the part 4 of our React series. And today we are going to learn about states. So this may be a little bit longer video because there are some really key concepts of React to learn in this video, and states is what basically makes React. That is what makes it stateful, and yeah, it's just gonna be a long ride. This video, maybe I'll cut it into two if I think it's too long. So yeah, let's just get started right away. So last time we saw we had something like this. Let me check if I have my server running. I don't. I don't want to do it. What I did the last time. So yeah, I just do npm starter it real quick. Yeah. So this is what we made last time, which I am not happy at all to see because it looks horrible. But yeah, so I mean, the thing which we made looks great, but the UI just looked weird. Yeah, now I cleaned it up a little. So yeah, this is where we left out last time when where we started dealing with props. So now props is all real and cool, but states it's where it's at. So what is a state and what does stateful and stateless mean and all those kinds of stuff. So right now, what you need to understand is state is some kind of variable which which if changed the component re-renders. So for example, we have this mood, right, as a prop. So if in the running phase of the application of a React app something happens, so this will need to change. Like if I press, like if this button is, for example, make me happy, and if I press this button and I want this to become happy, then so that is where states will be used. Then the React will know that yeah, a particular state has changed in a function, so re-render that function or the component. I'm so sorry to call it function, a component. So the React will understand that yes, the mood has changed, so you better re-render this whole component. So that is what states are used for. So when a component has state involved in it, it is called stateful, and when it doesn't, it is called stateless. It's quite simple. So this is right now stateless component because it does not have any state involved. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new state. So in React, when you're using functional components, you need something called as hooks. Don't let it scare you. Hooks are basically functions which you use to create states and different kind of stuff, not only states. So we'll cover different types of hooks as we go one by one. But for now, the hook which we are concerned is use state. Yeah. So to make a state or to make a state variable, first we need to import use state, and to import use state you just have to go curly bracket and import use state. And to make a state, we have to declare a constant and with an array of two things: our state variable and our state updating function. So I'll just name the state as mood, our state variable as mood, because I don't want it to be in props now. Yeah, I don't want it to be in props. I want everything to be dynamically handled. When we click the button, it should get happy. That sort of stuff I need. I'll even remove the log function because we don't need it anymore. Yep. And I'll remove the on click for now. So we'll understand once we move along. So in our when we are declaring a state, the first thing is the state variable, its name. So I'm gonna name it mood because that is what I want it to be stateful. And then comes the state updating function. So I'll just name it set mood is equal to use state. We call the function and we give it a default value. You can or you cannot, like you can keep it undefined or you can like just give it a default value like this. So initially I am sad, the component is sad, its default value is sad, so I'm just gonna write it sad here. And here I'm just gonna type it out as mood. Now, if we check our website, it still says this is the first component. I'm sad to see it. Now, what I want to do is when I press this make me happy, it should change itself to happy. So for that, we're gonna use this set mood because that is what updates our state. I will come to things one by one. There could be some questions in your head, I understand, but I'll clear them once we get through this. So I'm gonna write a function to change our mood, and I'll say change mood. And what this does is we're gonna write some code which is gonna change our mood, which is a state. So we're gonna use our updating function, which is the set mood, and we're gonna give it the value happy. Now, and we're gonna obviously pass that on as on click to the button. So when the button is clicked, it is gonna change the mood. Change mood. Now, if I press make me happy, it should update itself as I am happy. Did you notice that the page did not refresh, but it just updated the component? That is the beauty of React. The page does not refresh once you uh, change some state. So there can be one doubt or something you can be having. It's like, yeah, Rugved, why didn't you try this? Like instead of this, just write mood is equal to happy. And if I refresh our page and click the button, it just gives me an invalid assignment to constant mood. Yeah, so there are two things. Why React did not implement it like this? Like why you just can't like set it to mood is equal to happy? Again, because it first things first, it's a constant. But second thing is set mood basically tells React that yeah, I'm gonna change the state. You better be ready to re-render this function or the component. So that is why that set is used instead of just directly writing mood is equal to anything. The specific thing is used. So now what I want to do is let's see, let's use some props and states together. So what I want to do, I'll give it the default mood. Default mood is equal to sad, and new mood is equal to happy. So these are the two moods I have right now, which is something is default and there is one thing new. So now as I've hard coded these in this, right, like I have a hard coded sad, instead I just want my props to handle the default value of the state. I can just go props.default mood, and where we have set mood, I can just say props.new mood, and even right here I can just put it props.new mode. So what this is gonna do, magically, nothing's gonna change on the front end or the app, but now this just basically made your app a lot more dynamic. So if I duplicate this, and if I go for angry and calm, it should work. If I just go angry and calm, so now it shows that I'm angry to see it, and if I see, and even the button says make me calm, and it says I am calm, and if I press make me happy, it's gonna stay make me happy. Yeah, so that is that. One thing to note, that when you duplicate the functions or the components, the states are independent of each other even if they are the same component, because basically you're duplicating them. So each component, even if it's deriving from the same code, it's gonna have its own independent state. So that is why it says happy and calm in different things, even if we are using the same component twice. So that's one thing to note, and actually it makes things a lot more easier once you move along. So there is one thing to note, that set mood or any set function of for the state is asynchronous. If you have written some code in JavaScript before, you'll understand what I'm trying to say. But if you do not know, I'll show you. So we're gonna make a new component, which is the perfect example to demonstrate this specific sort of behavior, which is a counter. So I'm just gonna go use my template right away. uh, there is some difference in how this function and this function is written. It just says export default function, and I'm exporting it down below here. Does not matter, does not change anything. If you are curious how I did it so instantly, I just typed RFC and pressed enter. This is basically what do we say, extension in VS Code which you get. React, you can just search up React snippets and you're gonna get it. So yeah, not wasting any other time, I'm just gonna make a new state here, which is gonna be called as count and set count, and I'm gonna use the use state, which is gonna auto import for me, and I'm gonna give it the value 0, a number, and I'm gonna render it out and say this is your count, and it's gonna show my count to me. And I'm gonna have a button which is gonna say increase count, and for the on click I'm gonna write a function inside inline. It's gonna be an inline function directly. So that is how you write an inline function. You just give in the curly brackets, you just give the round parentheses and just go with an arrow function. And I'm just gonna go set count, and I'm gonna do count +1. Oh, you know what, instead I'll just make it its own function, because we're gonna need to write something more to explain. And let's just copy this, paste it out here, and say the on click function which gonna use is, oh god, yeah, on click. So now what should happen is, once we press this button, the count should go above 1. So if I just save this and import our counter function in this app, I'm just gonna say counter. It's not gonna auto import for me, so I need to import it for myself. Let's say counter. Yeah, so I'll just give it a refresh, and now it is gonna give me that this is your count, and it says 0. So if I press increase count, it's gonna increase my count from 0 to whatever I want, right? Super simple, super easy. But what do I mean by when I say that set count is asynchronous? So what I'll do, I'll console.log my count value. So technically what should be displayed is, once the set count is done, then I should see 1 2 3 4. But now if I refresh this to set my count back to 0, I'll open up the console, and if I press count, it shows 0 here, but it shows 1 here. If I increase the count, it shows 1 here, but it shows 2 here. So that is what is happening. Basically this is some asynchronous code. If you don't know what asynchronous code is, I better recommend you check it out on any JavaScript tutorials. It's gonna explain it to you perfectly. But yeah, updating states is asynchronous. So even if it shows 2, it's gonna show you 1. So I hope you understand this concept very well. And if you don't, please check out some JavaScript tutorial on what asynchronous functions are. To give you an idea, all the code we generally write is synchronous. So one line executes after another, but sometimes asynchronous functions such as this executes afterwards. So it comes to that line and it says, okay, this is an asynchronous function, we need to deal with it later, and then it continues below, it continues below and executes the below lines. So if I write like count, imagine if there's like 4 lines of any other code. So if the program comes like, yeah, okay, it's set count, so it's an asynchronous function, put it aside, let's just go next, and then it goes next. So that is what asynchronous function is, that they are not executed synchronously. They have their own kind of cycle of execution. So that is all you need to know to understand this. But I would really highly recommend that you understand what asynchronous functions are, because not understanding them will be a nightmare once you start writing more React code in general, and once you start dealing with more states. So yeah, this is all about states today. For today, I don't have much to tell you more than this, that the updating states is done, showing your state and everything. So now technically you can make your own React app, because then you can have a state which is a username. So that is a very good example of a state, a username. Because what happens is you don't know like what the username is gonna be. Your backend is gonna fetch the username for you, and you'll have to display it everywhere. So that is where states come in useful. But there is again one problem with React, that for example, I need to like have my children pass down the state. So I have one state in my app or first component, and then there is a component inside my first component, and then component inside component, and that wants the state to be referenced. So I'll have to keep on passing the props from child to child to child to child to child, which is not cool. I'll show you an example right away if you don't mind. So this is our one state, right? So I'll just make another component real quick. Let's just go with test component .jsx. Oh my god. And just give me a second, I'll rename it to JSX. And let's go RFC. I'm just gonna do it quick, and I'm just gonna props.mood. Tell that it's gonna get the props. And in our first component, let's just get our test component. Yeah, states work in props as well. So if you pass in a state, I'll just show it to you real quick. I will have to import a test component. Yeah. So now what it should do is render my, okay, it should be rendering my mood. Oh yeah, I did not pass in the prop it needed. So I'm gonna go mood is equal to mood. Now it says sad, right? And if I change it here, it's gonna change it there as well. So states, when you pass them as props, acts like states as well. So anything which changes here in our first component is gonna change in our test component, which is basically a child of the first component. So the re-render happens for all the, if a parent component re-renders, the child components are gonna re-render as well, which are using that specific state. So that is why it changed to happy. If I refresh it again, if it says sad, this is our test component. I'll just make sure you understand. So I'll just write here test component, so we know, like, I'll write child component, right? And I'll write here parent component. So just for you guys to make it understand. So right now it says child component is sad, like the child component is having the value sad as well, and even the parent value. And the sad value is coming from the parent. And if I press make me happy, it should be like both should get updated. So the problem which I was talking about is, what if this test component had one more uh, child component in it? So like what if it had like some another child component which used this mood as well, which also used this mood? So it will be you'll have to again pass in the props.mood, and this seems easy, that just pass it along. But once there are a lot of states and a lot of props in your project, it just gets very very difficult to handle your state. That is where these tools like Redux come in, which are state management tools, just to make sure that your states are clean enough and you don't have to go through the props hell, because passing props inside it becomes very messy. There is another alternative which React started to support is called as React Context. It also helps in this specific problem itself, but you don't have to worry about it right away because we are not writing a lot of React code right now because we are learning. So yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, comment down below if you have any doubts, join our Discord server, go bonkers. Yeah, bye bye.